The video you just saw was yet another church burning in Montreal last night, 1:30 a.m. And guess what? Nothing about hate speech in mainstream media.
Vandalism.
Surprise, surprise, right?
Vandalism.
Surprise, surprise. They don't even talk about vandalism. You'll see what they're talking about. I'm going to show it to you. But today's opening subject is to talk about the double standard that is happening right now in Canada. My name is Nico Lagan. I'm too conservative for the conservatives. My co-host Rob Ambrose, not woke enough for the liberals. We are the political orphans. So as you saw, video doesn't lie on this one. I had problems believing it. It's somebody that one of my followers sent me that this morning, and I'm like,
where's it at?
Because it's super close to here. It's in Montreal. It's probably 30 minutes from where I am. Okay. And my follower sends me this. I'm like, I didn't hear about that. I start Googling, cannot find anything about it. This was probably about 12 hours ago. And he sends me the link. Somehow it wasn't coming up on YouTube at all. And finally I got it. He sent me the link for the article. And I'm just going to replay the video once again, and I'll show you the actual article. It actually shows what happened to the church. But the whole point of me bringing this up is kind of show the hypocrisy that's happening in Canada right now. Because we all know what would happen if this was a mosque, right? We all know. Yeah. And here is, I'm just going to replay the video. The video, if you didn't notice, I put 3 videos together from 3 different angles that I could find out there. So the video is super short, it's like 8 seconds long. So here we go. So let me just stop it there. So obviously the right one's from the highway, and the 2 other ones are pretty damn revealing, right? The church is definitely on fire. And here's what it looks like now.
Was there any news at all? Was any media coverage?
Sure. They're reporting on it now. Like when I first posted about this morning, I could find there was one article, and it was from CBC. They even updated it to show what it looks like now. And here is, I'm just going to share my screen here. Okay. And here's what it looks like now. So you saw it on fire. Now look at it. That's what's left. Oh shit, my bad. There we go. Bam. This is what's left of the church.
Yeah. That's what. Where is this? Saint-Ours or Saint-Ours, Quebec? I don't know how to pronounce that.
No, it's
O-U-R-S.
It's in Montreal. Yeah, but it's Sud-Ouest. Okay. It just means South-West in Montreal.
Oh, okay.
That's all it is. It's on the southwest of the island. That's all it means. Okay. And it's interesting because look at the title: food bank destroyed, senior home evacuated after church fire in Montreal Southwest. They're focusing on 150 people that needed to be evacuated. And if you look throughout the article, not one single mention of hate speech. Not one. Yeah. Not any mention of hate crimes. And they also report that a food bank was burned down. So as part of the church, there was a food bank by the name of, I actually heard about this, and see, this is the picture that was there earlier. So as the flames are burning it, it's Saint Nicholas. So basically it's my church, Saint Nicholas.
Oh, that's right.
And right now, to answer this question, because there's a question from Sheridan saying, was that arson? We don't know because they're not addressing it. Well, it's not a hate crime. It's not arson. It's simply went up in flames, and it is completely, as you can see, it's absolutely destroyed.
Yeah. So just even before Sheridan asked, I was kind of Googling on here to just find this out myself, because I'm thinking like, I'm going to try to play devil's advocate here. I'm thinking, who knows? Maybe this was maybe a nun fell asleep and knocked over
smoking in bed.
Yeah, that's right. She was cooking meth, and then No, but like,
Yeah, exactly.
because if it is just a fire, I mean, then I agree that's not newsworthy. So I'm looking here, and you're right, we don't have confirmation one way or the other, but I'm suspecting it is, because one thing it says here is Montreal Fire Department informed local media outlets a 911 call was received shortly before 2 a.m. To me, that
Mhm.
sounds like the people who lit the fire, right? Maybe
Sure.
it was, and one felt guilty, or maybe they just wanted to get it out there. But call at 2 a.m. and there's no mention of anything else. You think if there
No.
was like, if it was suspected that it was, say,
Electrical.
electrical or something, that would often be said right away. It would say, fire investigators are investigating it as a a non-criminal act or something like that, because they may not know everything within the first hour, but they know some of the basics. They'll know if, like, for example, oftentimes you smell an accelerant, right? If gasoline was used,
Yep.
the smell will be there.
Mm-hmm.
If there's a gasoline smell, within 5 seconds of getting to the scene that, okay, there was some arson involved. The other thing too is, if it's electrical, you're always going to see it in the electrical panel, right? So that's probably one of the first things they go. My point is, I suspect this was some form of arson. Now,
Sure.
whether they're going to call that, vandalism or criminal versus hate, I think,
Mhm.
that would be interesting to see. I think we kind of all know what's going to happen there.
Yeah.
But you're
Yeah.
right. If it was a mosque that was burnt down, or
Oh.
even a synagogue that was burnt down, it
Oh
would
no.
be splashed across the front pages as a hate crime.
100%. Like, politicians would be already putting new policies in place in order to protect it. If that were to happen, they would already be in Parliament today. They would have talked about it during the question period. That would have been the number one thing. And here's about all you hear. This site is located in the historic heart of Côte-Saint-Paul. I actually lived there. And it holds a special significance for many of us. Members of our community were married there and celebrated important
What
life
kind
milestones.
of people? what group are we talking about here? Well,
Of
she
course.
said members of community. What community? Possibly the Christian community?
No, you don't say. No.
It's one of those things where, you might not see it right away, but once you notice it, you see it everywhere, right? This whole sort of erasure of Christianity. And I'm an atheist.
Yep.
I don't have a dog in this fight as far as the actual religious aspect of it. But one thing I'll always say is it offends my sense of justice when one group, especially the group that this nation's founded on, can be treated overtly in a different way than members of other groups. It's because I believe in the diversity of Canadian society that I strongly feel that way. There's so many people from so many different backgrounds. Once you start favoring one group, you are absolutely fucking you've already lit the fuse. Now it's just a matter of how long it takes to burn.
I could not agree with you more. And what's very interesting about this, I'm going to show it to you right now, is I actually went, because if you notice, it's a lot easier to share on X, right? If there's one social media you want to go on to see what people are actually posting, it's normally going to be on X, because it's so much easier than any other platform to post. You know exactly what I mean, right? You can post, repost. It's very simple compared to an Instagram, to a Facebook, to a TikTok, for example. You can repost a lot more things, but I did my rounds. So I went to see Mark Carney. Obviously, no mention of the church burning. Then I went on our Justice Minister, Sean Fraser's ex. Nothing about it. I went on Pierre Poilievre's ex account. Not speaking about it. And this was literally maybe 30 minutes ago, as I was getting prepared for the show. And the only person that spoke about it, of the main ministers or the main politicians, is Mark Miller. Mark Miller, our Minister of Culture. His official title is Minister of Identity and Culture. He was the only one that spoke about it. So no mention of Mark Carney didn't speak about it. Sean Fraser didn't speak about it. Pierre Poilievre didn't speak about it. But here's what Mark Miller posted about 4 hours ago. Sad news this morning for this heritage church, a strong cultural symbol of our community. My thoughts are with the 148 residents who had to be displaced in the middle of the night. Thank you to the Montreal firefighters for their response.
So
no, hold on. No, keep that thought. Keep that thought. Give me 2 seconds to show you the hypocrisy of Mark Miller here.
Mm-hmm.
And this one is holy bejesus. Like, listen to this. This is a post he made. This is a repost he made on February 13th. So 10 days ago.
I am
deeply. Hold on. Listen to this. I am deeply disturbed by the reports of an individual targeting a downtown Montreal mosque. Same city in Canada, different religion. No one should feel unsafe at their place of worship. My heart is to our Muslim neighbors today. We must continue to stand against all forms of hate and Islamophobia. What did that guy do? He peed on the fucking outside fence of a mosque. Not on the mosque, not on a Muslim guy.
Can you go back to that?
A deranged man.
Back up.
Oh, yeah. Hold on. There you go.
Yeah, no, finish your thought there, and I'll jump on.
Oh no, that's it. Like, they literally, look at this. It's literally a video of this dude going to pee on a fuck, and he looks Muslim. Sorry, but if you look at the color of the look, tell me he does not look Muslim.
Oh yeah.
So
okay, so go back to his tweet. I just want to see that again for a second.
But how? There you go.
Yeah. Okay. So are you done your thought there? I've got something to say about this.
Bro, I'm just pointing out the irony here. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So, and obviously you're going to be, personally offended in a way that I'm not necessarily. Like
I'm not even offended. I expected it.
Just okay. I'll just, maybe not you personally, just Christians. Christians will be personally offended by this because we'll see an attack on their identity, and that's completely reasonable and fair. My only point bring up is say that's not my issue, right? Like, just to say I'm not a Christian. Right, like I think in all cases you need someone from outside a group to really speak about it, right? Like, for example, one topic we often talk about is men, how men are not doing well, right? And a lot of times I think, fuck, you know what? Women need to start speaking up for men and saying, no, listen, like, because if we do it, if the men do it, it's just, oh, look, men are complaining, privilege, blah blah blah. That's why it's so important for women to say, no, you know what? Like, men are an essential part of society. We need them. They need us. Here, I think about all the men I love in my life, blah, 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 blah. My point is that, it's important for people outside the group to speak up. And that's what I'm doing here. I'm not a Christian. I'm not offended from a religious aspect. But I am offended by just a sense of fairness and justice. Like, if you see, so first of all, like, we can really pick apart that tweet. But first of all, the first thing that jumps out at you is the tone is completely different, right? This is an angry man. This is this guy who feels he's mad that this has happened. It's performative anger, but there's undeniably that is the case, right? And now we've got, but then,
no, this is not the same one. Hold on.
Yeah, I got.
Do you want me to bring that back?
Yeah. Bring it up once more. So you've got, first of all, the tone's wrong. Second of all, he's identifying the group who's the target, right? He's saying Muslims. He used the word Muslim. He uses place of worship. He's making clear this is a sacred space. If you go back, and you don't need to go back, I'll just describe it. But if you went back to the tweet he did today, it wasn't about Christians and it wasn't about worship. It was community. It was a community center, right? They are, and this is exactly what I'm talking about when I said a few minutes ago, where once you notice this, you see it everywhere. Yep. That tweet that he made today, right here, sad news for the morning of this Heritage Church. It's flat. The tone is flat. But at first glance, you might think, yeah, that's fine, but that's reasonable. He's condolences. But this is why I think it's important to really dig into the differences here. A, the tone is completely different. B, he's identifying that these are Muslims and this is a sacred place of worship. He's not doing that here today. And four, three, he very explicitly says at the end, it's about hate on the Muslim one. He's like, we've got to stop hate in all its forms, blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
Not one. This is just an accident here. This is just,
of course,
basically, he's sorry for all the homeless people who don't live there anymore. And fine, it's terrible that homeless people are out in the streets, but this is a much bigger issue than that. And it minimizes it by focusing on, you know, how it affects the lives of 10 or 15 people, because this is a, you know, I don't like using religious terms. You'll often say, and many Christians will say, we're in a spiritual war. This is a spiritual war.
100%.
And I, like I said, I don't typically use it because I don't have the same beliefs about, you know, religion and blah, blah, blah. But in this context, this is the best way to describe it. I'll think of it as secular spiritualism. I know that there is probably no such thing in your guys' mind, but just bear with me for a second. The point is this is about a deeper battle than just, you know, pure unfairness. This is about something about who we are, our identity, right? As Westerners, as Canadians, as you know, as white people, as men, that it's okay for us to say, you know what, we're not going to support a system that tells us that treats us differently, that tells us that we're the problem. And the story we're talking about today is through the aspect of religion. You know, they're trying to erase Christians, but that's just one. That's part of a much bigger story. They're also doing the same thing to men, to white people, to Asian people. For some reason, they want to erase, basically because they're privileged too, right? But like, this is a much bigger deal. And you know, even though I'm not a religious person, I think a spiritual war is probably the most accurate descriptor of it. This is a battle for, let's say, the human spirit. You know, I know you guys, anyone who's a Christian, I understand, is going to, when you guys talk spiritual war, I know what you mean. And in fact, that's why I'm reluctant to use the term. Like, I grew up in the church, right? I absolutely know what people mean when they're talking about, you know, spiritual warfare. So I'm well aware of that. My meaning is a little bit different, but again, the language is the same. It's something much bigger going on here, and we need to call it out in all forms. And that's why even I, as an atheist, are speaking out so strongly against this, and I'm personally offended.
Yeah. It's you know, man, I'm not surprised by it. I was expecting it, but what I find very, very revealing about this, and this is for the Conservative Party members or supporters out there, Pierre Poilievre is not talking about this. Zero. The only person that actually spoke about this on their X is Mark Miller, the guy that called the Bible hateful.
Yeah.
And
yes,
however, agree with the tone or not, the irony is that the Conservative leader did not address this at all. Yet, look at this. This is him yesterday celebrating the new Chinese year. like this is pictures on his X from, 2 days ago. He is celebrating in Markham. Proud Canadians in Toronto. The year of the fire horse. Wishing everyone a happy and prosperous year of the fire horse. Nothing about a church being, we can't just say burned down. It's been destroyed.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Like I'm literally going through all of his posts here. Nothing. At all, nothing. Yet, look, another post. So he posted about celebrating the Chinese New Year of the horse. Then now he's in Newmarket celebrating with Asian descent individuals, but will not talk about how a church was burnt down overnight. And here is a great Juno News actually made this interactive map as per their calculation. I've seen numbers in the 400 and 500s, but Juno News, that is from, I just want to see when's the last time it was updated, but I've used this article a few times. But it's saying that the chilling reality is out in the open. 123 churches across Canada have been vandalized, burned to the ground, or desecrated, and to this day There has been no national inquiry called to address this national crisis. And look at the map. Those are
Everywhere.
all over
Yeah.
Canada.
Yeah.
So it's not
You'd
just
see it as an
one
epidemic
single place.
if that was mosques.
Oh, it would never happen if
No.
you know as well as I do, if it was one mosque, one synagogue, emergency right off the bat, this is absolutely unacceptable.
Back,
Somebody pees on a fence and it's hateful, it's Islamophobia. Yet over 100 church, I'm gonna say over 100 because it's pretty used, a number that's pretty common to use right now, but over 100, but no mention of hate, no mention of anything. This is just it. Sad news this morning for this heritage.
Yeah,
church.
yeah. It sounded like it's like, oh no, church burned down. Look, one thing that we've talked about this quite a bit. We've had some great guests. I forget which one, but remember the term was brought up, cultural Christian. I think that I never really heard of it.
It's Santa Claus that brought that up.
Yeah, as soon as he mentioned that, like, I never heard that before, but as soon as he said, I was like, yeah, actually that works a lot. That works for me. And I think, and the reason I'm pointing this out is because I do think that people like me, atheists out there, common sense, probably were liberals most of your life, but are really, really getting, really having almost an existential crisis about the state of the left, and if you still fit on there, or if are you a conservative now, or like all those things. There's a lot of us out there. And I think we should be familiar with concepts such as that, cultural Christianity, because that's absolutely, like I said, I knew exactly what he meant when he said it, and I completely agree. So that's probably why I do feel a sense of personal aggrievement when I do see this stuff, because, when you talk cultural Christianity, you're talking, what's typically thought of as Judeo-Christian values. And we've pointed out many times on the show, much of that is really not specifically religious, right? It's just good ways to live your life. Don't murder people,
moral values.
Don't steal. Yeah, don't fuck your neighbor's wife. Don't steal. Don't lie. That has nothing to do with religion. Well, I mean, it clearly does if it's in the Bible, but it can be separate. You don't need to be a believer in order to say, yeah, that's more or less the values that guide my life. And I want to live in a country that agrees with these things, that agrees with this, and it's okay to want that, and that is what I would consider cultural Christianity. And I got a feeling there's a whole lot of fucking quote unquote cultural Christians out there that probably just haven't thought about it in those terms.
100%. Order of the Monarch on Instagram is saying this government needs to go. There's another comment by, I'm just going to address them all at the same time because my comment's going to be the same. Goldberg Jody is saying, when a government doesn't support Christians and Jews and says Muslim values are Canadian values, we know we don't have a Canadian government. We have a WEF. Carnage is a criminal. And then you have Nancy Job that's saying, so sad that the liberals are so woke. I get the Muslims out of this country and the liberals. To all three of you on Instagram, you're sadly mistaken because, as I pointed out, the conservative leader is not talking about this. Pierre Poilievre is not addressing this at all. So it is not a liberal versus conservative. The only person that addressed this out of the prime minister, the opposition leader, the justice minister, and the culture minister, which are the four guys, at least those are the three top guys in the Liberal Party that should address this, because they're responsible to put those policies in place. So those are the three guys that should talk about it. The only one that talked about it is Mark Miller. I completely disagree with his tone, and you and I are absolutely in agreement with this, but he's the only one that spoke about it. Pierre Poilievre did not address it. He did not speak about it. He did not mention anything on his social media about the church burning. I've never seen him talk about over 100 church burning. So don't get it. Don't be mistaken. This is not a left versus right issue. This is not a political issue. This is 100%. Just something that they,
it's a cultural issue.
100%. But there's another thing that's worth saying, because Goldberg Jody is saying that support Christians and Jews. No. You should just stop at Christians, because if they were Jews and that was a mosque, there would be a absolutely mainstream media would cover it all over the place. Oh no, just look at Bill C9. When they introduced Bill C9, it's all about protecting Jews and Muslims. They just don't care about Christians. Muslims, Jews are protected in Canada. They're very well protected in Canada. So are Muslims. It's Christians that are not. Let's be 100% honest here and stop lying. If that was Jews right here, if there were Muslims, I guarantee you Pierre Poilievre would have mentioned something.
Sure they would.
But because they're Christian, he's not. He's not a Christian. The people out there that vote for Conservative Party and you expect him to be a Christian, he ain't a Christian. He don't care about Christians at the end of the day. He does not. He doesn't speak for Christians. Now, are there people in his party that are Christian? Absolutely. That's the only party normally Christians are part of, is either the PPC or the Conservative Party. So I'm sure there's a bunch of MPs, backbenchers, that might have talked about this. But the point I'm trying to make is that the guys that should have addressed this, Pierre Poilievre, Mark Carney, Sean Fraser, our Justice Minister, and our Minister of Culture, those are literally the four top guys when it comes to this. One of them addressed it and did not address it properly, but at least I'll give credit where credit is due. He at least posted about it compared to the three others that did not. And I'm not saying it was not acceptable, but at least give credit where credit is due, as much as I dislike the guy. So this is not a liberal versus conservative.
No, correct.
It's not.
And I agree with everything you say. And, I'm going to, especially anytime we talk about this, I'm going to keep harping on this just because I want this to get out there, this concept. And anyone who's watching this who might be thinking, oh, okay, yeah, I understand why, Nico's upset. He's a Christian. This is a church. Of course he should be upset. Why should I care? What I'm telling you is you should care for the same reason as I was discussing a few minutes ago. Cultural Christianity. Think about what that means. Think about if that applies to you, because that is under attack the same way as so many other things. The way women's rights are under attack, the way even gay rights are under attack by, say, the transgender movement. There's a lot of things that even if you don't particularly see yourself as a Christian or particularly identify with that and think it's someone else's fight, no, it's not. It's your fight too. And you need to be upset about this as well, right? Injustice in society is injustice anywhere. And the fact of the matter is, pay attention out there when you look through the media. As we were saying earlier, this stuff isn't obvious and you don't see it right away. Once you see it, you will see it everywhere. My eyes have been opened, certainly, I would say over the past year, which coincided with us starting this show, right? Just because I never really talk about Christianity that much in a political sense. And when you do, just because that's the topic of the show, right, it just focuses your mind on it a little more. And this is where we got this idea of a cultural Christian. Think about what Judeo-Christian values actually are. Think about if that applies to you. Take away the Jesus part for a second. I know that obviously for Christians, that's the fundamental component. You cannot take away the G, but I'm not speaking to Christians right now. I'm speaking to people like me, people who are not Christians. People who are atheists or what have you, but they still care deeply about their society and they don't like the direction they're going. Think of yourself as a cultural Christian. Think about what Judeo-Christian values are. We hear the words a lot, high trust society. High trust societies are based on concepts of Judeo-Christian values. And it's perfectly fine to accept that. Not only is it fine to accept it, we should be accepting it and talking about that. We should not allow these people to trash our history anymore. These woke far left idiots to talk shit about your ancestors, my ancestors, their ancestors, right? Is there mistakes in Christianity? Have there been periods of violence? Absolutely there have, right? And there's no one going to doubt that, right? The Spanish Inquisition was brutally violent, but that was 500-600 years ago. I'm more worried about what religions and religious people are doing today. It isn't organized Christian groups going around raping kids over in the UK, right? It isn't organized Christian groups that are demanding that women or you accept that men can give birth and women can have penises, and that male rapists should be placed male rapists should be placed in female prisons as long as they say the magic words, I identify as a woman. Right? Like, these are all things that you don't need to be particularly religious against to really start speaking out against it. And if you're watching this show and you're like, well, it's not my thing, I'm not a Christian, you really need to start thinking about this in a bigger picture. and start thinking about the concept of cultural Christianity and see if it applies to you. Because I think there's a lot of people like me, former liberals or liberals, but not sure, not religious. But if you actually lay out what are truly, true Judeo-Christian values, they'll be like, yeah, everything about that is about me. So think about that.
I would also add, where do you want to live? Do you want to live under a Muslim rule, or you want to live in a Christian society? Because that was Jeff Evely. I called him Santa Claus earlier, thinking you might get the reference, but it was Jeff Evely.
Oh,
it was Jeff Evely that was saying that he's a cultural Christian. He's an atheist, but he's like, I don't want to live anywhere else than under a Christian society, a society that is based on Christian values. And I want to take a few of the comments here because we have
there's some really great ones. I was just thinking that.
This is funny. Woke till you're broke during Ramadan. I did not think about that at all, but it's true. Ramadan started last week.
Yeah.
The thing is, let me address it this way. I don't even think personally that they're Muslims doing that. I think they're just white woke people. I don't even think.
I think so. I agree.
Would I be surprised that it's a Muslim? No, I wouldn't. I'm not saying that it's impossible that it was a Muslim. What I'm saying is, I'm not a betting man, but if I was, and you asked me to put money on someone, I would say a white dude in his very early 20s or a white woman in her very early 20s. If
40s. I would say bet, 40s. Honestly, early 40s woman.
No.
Early 20s.
Oh no, 20. She would have burnt herself.
Yeah.
Not saying that they didn't, but if I had to bet, we're talking about white people here. We're not talking about Muslims.
I would bet you're right. I would bet you're right.
Yeah. See, I like that cultural. I really like that
Christianity. I think I'm going to start pushing it a lot and start talking about it, because it's one of those things that you don't really have to sell it. I think most people who understand a lot of what's going on are going to know. I knew it immediately as soon as Jeff mentioned it. I was like, you know what? There is something to that, and I think a lot of people will agree with that. Yeah, it is a great term. And I think and it's immediate. It makes immediate sense. Everyone kind of understands. Yep. And there's a natural alliance right now between people like me and people like you, who are people like me who are disillusioned liberals, who were liberals fundamentally because of their classical liberal values, and that might have been more reflected in the left than the right 20 years ago. But we got to open our eyes. It is not anymore. Of course, there's still authoritarianism and sort of like bigotry and hatred on the right, but that's descendant. It's ascendant on the left. It's the dominant force. You're never going to get rid of all the bad actors in any large group. But my issue is what group is leading this movement? What group is leading this charge? And the reactionaries, the authoritarians, the mini dictators on the right are not leading this charge. Are not the dominant force within current conservatism or right-leaning thought, but that is the case on the left. The reactionaries, the authoritarians, the fucking, frankly, the crazy, the insane people. They are the ones who are in charge, and that makes all the difference.
I agree. Yeah, there's a few comments. I know you took this one.
Trans people.
Yeah, that would be possible. I'm sure you're the one that highlighted.
Yeah. You put your thoughts there, and then I'll respond to. Well, unless you want me to go first.
Well, Tim O'Donnell is saying religion on all sides have killed more innocent people than anything else in humanity. That's actually quite incorrect. Just in the 20th century, Marxism has killed over 100 million people. If you look at not Australia, if you look at Russia, you look at Hitler, you look at communism, you look at Pol Pot, you look at who's the guy that started that whole communist revolution in China? Pol Pot, Mao. Thank you, Mao. They've killed more than 100 million people. And let me hit you with some knowledge, as they say in dodgeball. Abortions, since this is messed up. If you did not know, it is estimated that this is insane. But since 1920s, they estimate. Their estimation for the world, 1 billion abortion. A billion with a B. B.
And
Ge-
we're
the,
shocked, and we're shocked.
the
at
generation,
Yeah.
the generation Z, like the ones that are in
The
their
Zoomers,
early
the
30s
Zoomers.
right now, they estimate that a third of them are missing due to abortion. So don't give me this shit that religion has killed more innocent people. Who's more innocent than the unborn? This is a billion with a B since 1920s, and you're talking over 100 million are the estimates between Russia, China, Hitler. So Marxism has killed a lot more people. So yeah, go ahead, bro.
And and the reason I highlighted this one is because this is sort of a good example of the discourse we don't need to have, right? Like the whole point of me speaking about sort of cultural Christianity is to make that mental gap in people's minds who are like me. Because look, if you're like me, you know, your early 40s, the reason you've been a liberal your whole life is because you have, broadly speaking, classical liberal values. Your worldview is broadly live and let live. And when you were 21, 22, 23, that was more embodied by the left than the right. It was the right who was, you know, really hyper-focused on, you know, who was allowed to marry and who wasn't. And so being a liberal, if with sort of my worldview, and in that it made sense. And in your mind, the religious right is sort of, I don't want to say the enemy, but they're definitely the opposition, right? And even though you may now be cut to 20 years later, your early 40s, you're completely disgusted with everything you see on the left. You think wokeness is a cancer that's destroying society. You may almost, without even, you know, you've changed your opinion on, or actually you haven't changed your opinion, but consensus opinion has been changed around you so much, but you're still somewhat trapped in old ways of thinking. You still see the religious right as the opposition, and you still might be inclined to say something like Tim O'Donnell does here, where he says religion on all sides has killed more innocent people than anything else in humanity. Now, Nico gave a rebuttal to that, and I'm not even, my point is we don't need to even have it. There is a debate to be had there, but I just think from a strategic standpoint, we have so much more in common about what we need to fight against today. We all understand, you know, if you're a committed atheist, there are going to be some fundamental disagreements you always have with a committed Christian, and that's fine. You know, there's a time and a place to do that. But what I'm saying is in this moment, you know, we need to work together against a common cause and a common enemy. And if that's ever going to happen, people on my side have to just stop having this debate about if religion is good or bad, or all the terrible things religion does, because they're going to feel required to defend that and push back against it. And it doesn't matter, because we're not really talking about that part of this debate right now. There's much bigger issues, bigger fish to fry. And I just think when you're having a political alliance of groups you just have to have an understanding of things you're not going to talk about. It's not productive to have a debate about, you know, and on the other side, you know, they're not going to try to fucking evangelize you. They're not going to try to tell you that, you know, if you have questions about Christianity, I'm sure they'll answer it, but I don't think they're going to see it as their job is to convert you to Christianity. We all understand there's a much bigger enemy in the here and now that we're actually facing. And look, and if we can defeat this woke menace, yeah, of course, we'll go back to debating things like religion and whatnot. But right now, I think we got to get out of our mindset that the religious right is our enemy, and get into a mindset of cultural Christianity and what that means.
And as I said, it's not even a political conversation. This has nothing to do with with politics. This is, let's be real here. Because the whole point of this show, the whole point I wanted to address on here is the double standard that you're seeing. Because if this was a mosque, that would be the end of the world. If this was a synagogue, it would be the end of the world. But since 2021, since Trudeau went on TV to say that they found mass graves next to a residential school in Kamloops, over 100 churches have been vandalized or burned to the fucking ground. That is more than 4 years. So that is more than 25 churches. That's 2 churches a month over the past 5 years have been vandalized or burned down. And that's low estimates. I've seen estimates up to 400 to 500 when it comes to vandalism. So Imagine if this was any other group, if there were Sikhs, if there were mosques, if they were synagogues, Canada would not allow it.
Oh,
But the
lose it.
people,
We'd be
my
high commission.
ancestors, my Christian ancestry that built this fucking country, because my family on both sides have been here for 300 to 400 years. They were all fucking Christians. They're, as you can tell, they're white fucking Europeans. And guess what? They were Christians. They built this fucking country. And the audacity that people have to say, oh, you know what? It's a religious problem. It's not. It's a hypocrisy problem. It's a hate problem. And I don't like hate crimes. I don't believe in hate speech. I don't believe in hate crimes. I just believe in crimes, and I believe in speech.
They should be punished as
That's
crimes.
it. 100%. But there's such a hypocrisy in Canada that we now accept a double standard. We have Christian pastors, and we've had one of them on the show that's been arrested time and time again for preaching on the sidewalk. I can name you at least 3, Arthur Pawlowski being one of them as well, that has been arrested for preaching on the sidewalk. And we have Muslims blocking the busiest intersection in Canada, in Toronto, Bloor and Yonge. They are able to do this in Montreal to pray in front of the Notre Dame Basilique, which I would argue is the most beautiful church we have in Canada. Not in Montreal, not in Quebec, in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
My buddy from the US came here. I brought him there. And he's just like, whoa, this is insane how pretty it is. If you've never been there and you're in Montreal, you need to go. Yet, they go right outside the church and they pray right in front of it. They play their music on Sundays knowing. Yet, that's acceptable. That's acceptable. Exactly.
It cannot be acceptable.
No, I agree. I completely agree.
Yeah, like at the end of the day, and it doesn't need to be complicated at all. It's a real simple principle, and that is every group in society must be treated the same, period. End of discussion. That's really it. You don't need to talk about, well, what about the per capita harms? No, just treat everyone the same, period. And good policy and good law will flow from that. If that is your key, bad policy, bad law, comes from when you're starting with you're already trying to manipulate. Well, if we do this and take this group and put them over here, put a cap on this group while boosting this group, adds incredible complexity. We cannot control it because once you do that kind of social engineering, it's always going to have negative side effects that no one's even thinking about. Just fucking start from the principle, every group must be treated the same, period. But no, period. No buts. And once if that's your starting position, good law and good policy flows naturally from that. It's not hard to make. It's not hard to make good policy and good law if that is your starting position. And there was just one comment I wanted to take from Chris H. He says, I get suspicious of people who complain too much about wokeness. I don't know, man. I think it's completely appropriate to talk about what is probably the biggest social and cultural threat to society, facing society right now. Wokeness is not just annoying liberals, making people say pronouns. It's far deeper and far darker. I think of the movie It, right, where it's the clown and he kills the kids, and it's not really explained well in the movie, but if you read the book, you realize he's not actually a clown. It is just this ancient evil that has been around forever, and it needs the souls of kids. It takes on, for some time, it takes on the form of a clown to do certain things sometimes, but it is not a clown. It is a much deeper, darker, evil thing. And that's what wokeness is. That the annoying part with the pronouns, that's it in clown form. Yeah, it's annoying. But there's a much bigger, deeper problem than just annoying liberals. And we need to look at it from that perspective. And that is why, no, I don't think there's anything wrong whatsoever. Frankly, I get suspicious of people who don't see it as a problem, who don't talk about it enough, because it's not getting better. Of course, we're going to be talking about a problem if the problem keeps getting worse.
I completely agree with you. It's Marxism 101. If you look at the woke ideology, it's Marxism, but instead of being the proletariat against the have-nots, they made it about emotions. It's very brilliant. Read Solly Alinsky's book, Radical for Rules for Radicals, and he explains it very well. They took a have and have not and made it about emotion, so it doesn't need to be tangible anymore. This is what's so dangerous about the woke ideology. But to say that there's nothing wrong with wokeness, or that you're suspicious, you know, I'm suspicious of someone that doesn't see a problem with Marxism. That's where, because Chris has posted some communist propaganda in there saying that the Chinese has raised 850 million people out of poverty. Wah, wah, wah. That doesn't work that way, bruh. Communism never raises anybody out of poverty. It creates poverty. But again, this is not, we should have an expert come on the show to actually explain that, to go down that path. But the point in the matter is that there is a massive hypocrisy coming in Canada, and it is driven and allowed because of the woke mob support it. They're the ones through inclusion that not only do they push values that don't agree with their lifestyle, because woke would not exist in a Muslim country. No. Wokeism would not exist there. You would have been thrown off a building a long time ago. It only exists in Christian countries because we tend to tolerate this stuff because we're taught to tolerate this stuff. But they're so hypocritical that they don't even understand this simple principle that wokeness would not exist anywhere else in the world unless it's under Christian values, because that shit would not work under Muslims. Yet they support this stuff. But again, that's not the point. The point was simply to illustrate the reaction of Canadians, especially the people in power, as to what's happening here. Over 100 churches have been vandalized or completely burned down over the past 4.5 years. That's acceptable. That's no problem. We don't need to dig into this. We don't need to look anymore in there. No problem. And it all started on the lie that mass graves have been found in Kamloops, which is bullshit, never been proven. This is a complete hoax. Now you have a dude peeing on a fence in Montreal, of all places, right close to where that church is burned. And our Minister of Culture is saying he's outraged by an idiot peeing on a fence. But, it's going to be culturally, we're going to miss this establishment or this church. No reference to Christians, no reference to hate. Yet peeing on a fence is Islamophobia, and this cannot be tolerated. So if you don't see hypocrisy here, if you don't see a problem with this double standard, you'll know different than the people that prosecuted others for whatever reason. Imagine the people going after gays in the 70s. You know, in my books, gays are committed a sin. But that doesn't mean I want them to die. That doesn't mean I'm going to lack respect towards him. I'm a fucking sinner too. Surprise, surprise. I'm a Christian. That just means I accept that I'm a sinner and I can't be saved unless I follow Jesus Christ. There you go. That's all it is to be a Christian. You're a sinner. You're messed up. You're going to mess up again. But at the same time, man, imagine if we started prosecuted people again. And I'm not just saying Christian, I'm just saying as a whole, you wouldn't be okay with that. But why is it okay to do it here? Why is it okay to enable Canadians to burn down churches all across Canada? No consequences whatsoever. It's not a hate crime. And again, I don't believe in hate speech. I don't believe in hate crimes. I believe in crimes and I believe in speech. But why is it hate crime? 100%, 100,000%. Not only that, but we built this fucking country. Let's be honest here. Muslims didn't build this country.
And there's nothing wrong with
that. But that's a fact.
Yeah,
and it's a fact.
The facts cannot be, illegal or uncomfortable. And even if they are, that's fine. Uncomfortable facts exist, and we all have to get used to saying it. And I think I think it's really important to have both of our perspectives on this, because you're obviously, you're making all sorts of really solid complaints and issues from the Christian perspective. Those are valid and absolutely, those need to be said. And at the same time, I'm going to take those and go in another direction as well. guys, if you're not a Christian, you still can't think, oh, this isn't my fight. You need to start connecting all of these things together. This is the same fight as the gay rights fight back in the 70s or 80s. The same, ironically, the same people who, like, if gay rights was the battle today, those woke idiots, many of them would actually be pushing against it, right? Because they don't actually care about anything similar to actual liberal values. It's about power, right? It's this woke monster, and you would use the talking about like Marxism and communism, and I actually think, like, if I go back to the analogy of what I was talking about, how I used the movie It, where in some forms the monster was a clown, but that was just a small portion of the overall ancient evil that he was. I actually think the same is true for that too. I think even communism and Marxism is the clown. This is also an ancient evil, and communism and Marxism are one form of it. But I think, and I'm going to have to sit and think and flesh this out a little bit, but I think the evil parts of it are actually an ancient evil. I think that goes back, like, I think you could probably, it's really the sin of envy, coveting what your neighbor wants. Someone else has it better than you, so you take their shit, you destroy their life. That's at the heart of Marxism, right? And I think that it should be thought of in that regard as well. Even if you're like, oh, I don't care about economic theory and communism, but it's not really what we're pushing back against. We're pushing back against really what is very ancient evils. And in that form, we're talking about the evil of envy, right? And there are people who will destroy society and you with it because they feel like someone else has something better than them. And they only have the power that we give them. This is why it's so important to have this conversation, because right now we've allowed these people to take cultural and social power. There's starting to be a pushback against woke, against these people, but a lot of damage has been caused. And there's we also have to just win this battle, but learn the lessons from it. Oh, okay, these types of people do exist, and we need to make sure that we don't give them social or cultural power ever again. We have over the last 15 years.
Fortunately, it's part of the cycle, man. Everything that's happening to us in Canada is something that's happened many times throughout history. Just look at the four turning theories, and you'll see it lasts about 80 to 120 years, and that's what we're seeing right now. We're seeing tough times ahead. Those tough times are going to create hard men, and then hard men are going to create good times. That's the cycle in which we are. There's a good reason that they say that most fortunes are lost in the third generation. So if the grandfather makes millions of dollars, he will probably teach his kids how to keep that money, or even make to grow it. But then by the grandchildren, they normally are so far detached from seeing the work that needed to be put into growing that fortune that they don't have that knowledge. They just destroy the wealth, because to them it's just normal to have money. They don't understand the work that needed. And I'm not saying this is the case for all of them, but they were saying that most fortune are lost by the third generation. The first one builds it, the second one notices it, sees the work. Direct because it was their parents, it was their father, let's say, and also, exactly. So they were there.
You're by crazy association, at least. Dad who built this company with his bare hands. He's going to be that crazy working class guy till he's dead. So he's going to drill that into you, even though you're not really going to feel it. You're going to feel like a rich kid, but your dad's going to beat it, some of that work ethic into you. But by that third generation, they don't even know
it's gone.
The dad, maybe crazy grandpa. There's no way it can keep going.
No. I didn't think, man, I thought we'd be touching this subject for like half an hour. I had two other subjects I wanted to cover. But I love it. That's why I made it the main. But before we go, I do have to make a couple of announcements here. So we do have a new sponsor. You're not aware of that, but we starting today. We have a new sponsor. Oh, okay. So the sponsor of the Political Orphan is Miss Cleo Pet Treats, 100% natural, healthy
Okay.
dog treats made by hand right here in Canada. It's out of Manitoba. Not only are they made by hand, but they're made with local meat from Manitoba, not that Chinese crap that most treats are made out of. So you can go to cleocookiesandtreats.ca. The link is down in the comment section, and you can use the discount code political orphans to get 20% off your entire purchase. I am waiting on my first box coming from Miss Cleo, because
Okay.
I buy
That's
high-end
interesting.
food for my German Shepherd, and we buy very fucking expensive treats, all natural, no preservatives, and that's the same thing for her. So we made a deal. I'm gonna start recording content for her too, because I have a big
Okay.
sucker German Shepherd that's very well trained.
Sure.
So we're gonna do some trickies for the treats. But all to say, if you got a dog and you want to buy him or hers quality treats, handmade, 100% natural,
Well,
no
how about the
preservatives,
show too?
made here in Manitoba.
If you,
Oh, of course
yeah.
it does. But you get 20% off too. So just go to cleocookiesandtreats.ca. The link is in the description below, and enter political orphans to get 20% off. Second thing I need to say is on March 1st, I am launching a school community for the political orphans. And I've been working on it for a little while now. School is the name of the platform.
Okay.
Yep. And it's really a place for people that they understand what's wrong. They're tired of political talking points. They're tired of political slogans. But I just don't want to, the point is not just to talk about the problems. I want us to find a clear path forward. I want action. Like, it's one thing to talk about the problems, but they say there are three types of people. There's the people that talk about others. There's people that talks about problems, and then there's a third type of people that find solutions. And this is what I want to do. So that's the whole point. Is I don't want this school platform to be a place to vent, but I want to build something. I want us to really have those hard conversations. And I'm a strong believer that one single person per community can change that community. If we change hundreds of community around Canada, we change Canada. You change Canada locally, you don't change it at the federal level. So that's the idea. So it's going to be starting on March 1st. I really want it to be a citizen-led movement to rebuild Canada into the country our children deserve. So stay tuned. March 1st, 7 days from now, I'll be launching it. Now, we got some cool guests coming on. So tomorrow, I don't know if you heard about this. Wilf actually sent me an email about this. A few of my followers sent me an email about this, but there was a new email sent by the RCMP to all the legal gun owners in Canada. I have not read it yet, but Tracy Wilson from the CCFR, the VP of Public Relations for the Canadian Firearms Federation, is showing up tomorrow to speak about that new email. On Wednesday, we are joined by Senior Fellow at Macdonald Laurier Institute and Director of GenSpec, Mia Hughes, to do a deep dive on Bill C4, Bill C16, and also talk about the school board trustee that was just fined $750,000 by the BC Human Rights Tribunal. On Thursday, we are joined by Lee Dobson, a YouTuber that had 35 of his videos removed by request from the Ontario Attorney General. So he's being literally censored by the government of Ontario through YouTube. On Sunday this week, we have ex-Navy SEALs Craig Sawyer, a guy I've recorded before. That dude is a fucking monster. As in, he's done some really messed up shit in his life, and now he captures pedophiles. He puts sting operations to catch. He's the type to put ads in the journal, put ads on websites locally.
No way.
Rents a house, sends people there, and then they capture him. Oh yeah, he has a documentary. I'm gonna find what the documentary is. It's a couple of years old, but he's joining us on Sunday. And then I found someone, a professor out of the Toronto University, that will be joining us next week to speak about MAiD, to speak about what the program was supposed to be, what it is and what's coming. We're just booking a date right now, so the next few episodes are gonna be messy.
Yeah, nice. That sounds like it's gonna be a great week. Lots of good interviews. No, that's exciting stuff. And yeah, we got the new sponsor, Miss Cleo, man. Do you remember that? Do you remember that old? There was like an old like a Jamaican lady who did like, it was one of those call-in shows. I think even Dave Chappelle did a skit of her or something. It's
Miss Cleo.
Yeah,
she's a fortune teller. She predicts your future.
They're like, Dave Chappelle. So I remember the skit. I remember it's like this guy or this woman calls and she's like, "Yeah, my boy, he and Miss Cleo was like, he's in jail." And she's like, "Yeah, how'd you know?" He's like,
"Yeah."
He's like, "I'm psychic," right? Because it's obvious they're making fun of like black people, and because that whole Dave Chappelle, his whole humor was about like, that kind of race stuff. And then
100%. Still is.
Like, Miss Cleo's like, "I can see the future. Your boyfriend's gonna come out." He's like, and he'll go right back within 3 months. She's like, "Oh, damn, you're psychic." It's fine. Obviously, implying like you didn't need to be psychic.
Clearly.
And just before we close it, I'm going to take this one last one from Chris. And also, Chris, not that we're picking on you or anything. You haven't been back for a while, but we always appreciate to hear from other sides. So I see you're getting knocked around a little bit comments, but yeah, don't stress it. We appreciate you and your comments. But he says, "What does Black American term mean? Watch out or be careful. It's spread after Mike Brown was killed by the cops. People protested his death and militarized police to send the city." So again, not to pick on you, but this reminds me of a meme that is around on social media right now, where it says someone made a post that basically said, the thing with or so much of leftist discourse is just pretending not to understand something, thus making debate impossible. And again, this kind of reminds me of that a little bit. Like, yes, I understand the original meaning of woke, just like the original meaning of a swastika was not what it is now. But
it's a Buddhist symbol.
Exactly. So to pretend now, if someone was like, if someone flew with a swastika through town and said, hey, I don't know what you're talking about. It's a Buddhist symbol. You would probably say, okay, you're pretending not to understand what's happened since then.
And they're walking like this too.
Or... Yeah, exactly. Goose stepping, like, yeah. And you would understand they're, again, I'm not going to say I'm in bad faith here, but the meaning of words change over time. Woke does not. And when I say woke is an existential threat, that is not what I'm talking about. Very, very briefly, you can think of woke as an ideology or a worldview that separates human beings solely into their superficial identity traits, their skin color, their gender, their sexuality, who they like to have sex with, their religion, all of these things that are not really they don't have anything to say about the person's character or who they are. It's just superficial identity traits. Wokeism divides everybody into those and then adopts an oppressor versus oppressed mindset and has a hierarchy of people who are more oppressed. And if you ever want to see whose side to take in a given dispute, all you got to do is look up each side and say, these people are who is more oppressed, therefore I will take their side. And you don't know what's official, but we all know roughly at the top is, say, trans. Trans at the top of it. Then you've got Muslim immigrants today, and values on this list can change, but in this current moment, trans, undocumented immigrants, Muslims, especially in Europe, these are all at the top of that hierarchy of oppression. Gays are in the middle. Gays have come down. That's why in the debate about trans rights versus gay rights, the woke left will always support trans rights, even though it actually directly conflicts or removes gay rights, right? And we don't need to go on that too deeply, but if you basically make sex irrelevant, if sex is not a definable category that we can separate human beings into, like male, female sex, then homosexuality doesn't exist. It has no meaning to say you're same-sex attracted if sex doesn't exist, right? So by pushing this idea where sex has no meaning, you are directly stripping homosexuals of their legal rights. Because if a group cannot define themselves, they cannot legally defend themselves. And that's just an example. But that is why I, as a classic liberal, will push back against transgenderism for many reasons. You know, one argument is that it opposes gay rights. It also cracks down on women's rights. It also harms children. It also forces the rest of us to believe a lie. And we do not get to opt out. And we're going to talk about that tomorrow. But that motherfucker in BC, he got fined $750,000 simply because he does not believe that men can become women. So
Wednesday,
yeah, it's not just
Wednesday, by the way.
Wednesday,
not tomorrow.
Right. It's not just about, you know, believing the right thing or tolerating other people's belief, which is what, in my mind, that's the classical liberalism. That's why I think every religion should be free to worship how they want. I think Christians should be free to be Christians, Muslims should be free to be Muslims, and transgenderists should be free to be transgenderists. But that is a religious belief, the belief that human beings have a gender soul inside of our body that's distinct and separate from our physical body, and that sometimes you can be born with a gender soul that is separate from your physical sex. You're free to believe that, but that is absolutely a religious belief. You cannot impose that belief on me. And when we're in a society, people are being fined $750,000 simply for not believing that and for making that belief known. That's a real problem, and that is wokeism. So I get your point, but it really has nothing to do with the original meaning of the term. I don't know if you want to add anything onto that, Nico, but I could just do the regular.
No, I'm surprised you were able to. Were you able to breathe during that rant? Jesus.
No, I mean, you know, there's a few things that get my rants going.
That get your rights going. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, or get my rants going. Chris, I do appreciate the comments. I think, you know, and I even agree with this. The left wing and right wing are not having the same conversation regarding LGBT and transgenderism. There are definitely some disputes, but even like people like me, who are heretical liberals, you know, people who grew up liberal but probably aren't really considered anymore. We're having
we can't hear you anymore, Rob. You're lagging something crazy right now.
Okay, can you see me now? I'm gonna end it here anyways.
Yep, but we couldn't hear your last rant, so maybe that's a sign.
Okay, yeah.
Maybe God's telling you something.
Yeah. God's like, fuck this shit. All right, guys. My whole point was just to say, Chris, appreciate you, man. Keep coming back. We'll keep roasting you, and the cycle will continue again. Other than that, folks, if you are tuning in tonight, if you want to support the show, please consider becoming a member. You can do that through YouTube for the low price of $2.99. You can also buy us a coffee, which I actually don't see right now.
I was recording another podcast before, so I removed it.
Yes. So we do have a QR code. There we go. Yeah,
that's
another way to support the show. And of course, third way you can support the show is just keep coming back. Keep coming back and agreeing with me and calling Nico gay. And that's how you can support the show.
Sounds about right.
Other than that, folks, have a great night. Looks like got two in the books. We're gonna continue to have a strong week. Lots of great guests, so keep coming back. Y'all come back now. You hear?
Okay, Aunt Jemima. We'll see you tomorrow, guys. Peace.